September 26, 1983. Just after midnight, inside a secret Soviet military bunker, an alarm went off. Computers screamed. 5 US nuclear missiles were on their way. The world had only minutes. But instead of pressing the button to report it, one man paused. His name was Stanislav Petrov, and that pause may have saved every single one of us. To understand how scary this was, let's go back to the early 1980s. The Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union was at its peak. Both sides had thousands of nuclear weapons pointed at each other, ready to fire in minutes. Trust was basically zero.
There is but one sure way to avoid global war, and that is to win the Cold War. We have incontrovertible evidence that Soviet Russia possesses atomic weapons.
Just 3 weeks earlier, the Soviets had shot down a Korean passenger plane they thought was a spy plane. Over 260 people were killed. The US was furious. Tensions were higher than ever. And this atmosphere of fear and suspicion, even the smallest signal of attack could mean the start of nuclear war. On that night, Stanislav was on duty at Serbakov 15, a top-secret early warning center near Moscow. At around 12:15 a.m., the siren screamed. The computer showed one missile launch from the United States. A few seconds later, it showed 4 more, 5 missiles in total, heading toward the Soviet Union. The screens flashed red. Launch detected. The official procedure was clear. Petrov should call his superiors immediately. Within minutes, the Soviet leadership would decide whether to retaliate with thousands of missiles of their own. But Petrov hesitated. Something didn't feel right. He thought, why only 5 missiles? If the United States wanted to start a nuclear war, wouldn't they launch hundreds at once, not just a handful? Also, the ground radar, the system that should confirm missiles once they rose higher, showed nothing. Only the satellite system was reporting this attack. Stanislav knew that this new satellite system called OCO was untested and could make mistakes. He had a choice: follow protocol and report the attack, or trust his gut and call it a false alarm. In those tense minutes, Petrov made what he later called a 50-50 guess. He broke the rules. He told his commanders that the system was malfunctioning, that no missiles had been launched, and then he waited. Five minutes passed, 10 minutes passed. Nothing happened. The skies above the Soviet Union were clear. The alarm had been false. The world had come terrifyingly close to nuclear war, and one man's decision stopped it. But what actually went wrong? Investigators later discovered that the satellites had mistaken sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds for the heat of missile launches. It was an extremely rare alignment of the sun, the Earth, and the satellites. In short, the technology thought it saw missiles where there were none. The ground radar, which would have caught real missiles once they came closer, showed nothing. But if Petrov had trusted the computers completely, there is a chance that the Soviets could have launched their own nuclear strike in response. Petrov wasn't celebrated right away. In fact, he was questioned, criticized, and never rewarded by the Soviet government. His report embarrassed the designers of the satellite system. For years, almost nobody outside the Soviet military knew about his decision. Only after the Cold War ended, the world learned what happened that night. When the story came out in the 1990s, Petrov was honored with international awards. Many people began calling him the man who saved the world. This story reminds us of something important. Machines can make mistakes, but humans still have the power to think for themselves. On that night in 1983, One man's calm judgment stopped a disaster. A single decision by Stanislav Petrov kept the world from possibly ending. It's a reminder that sometimes history doesn't change because of armies or governments, but because one person in a quiet room chooses not to panic.